And we are live on Who Wrote That Up for You. Today is Tuesday, October 25th, 2022. I'm Sonja Ebron, a co founder at Courtroom 5.
And I'm Deborah Sloan, the other co founder at Courtroom 5.
We've got a very interesting show lined up for you today. In a few moments, we will hear from Stephanie Ebron. As you might understand, Stephanie is a first cousin, one of my favorites. And as we discussed, many of us have family and friends who've experienced the court system. And so we will want to hear from her experience today in court. A little further in the show, we will speak with attorney Paul Campson. Paul is an attorney, a personal injury lawyer in the New York City metro area. And we'll hear about his background and experience and some of the work that he is doing there. Before we get there, though, Deborah, what is on your mind today?
Before the witch trials, we're discussing having a kind of a Halloween week here. So before the witch trials in Salem, Massachusetts, Connecticut was doing its own kind of witch hunting. Um, in one bout of witch hunting, they executed three so-called witches within a few weeks of each other. Eventually, Connecticut's courts started to question witness quote evidence and decided that testimony from multiple witnesses was required in order to obtain a witchcraft conviction. Eventually, the execution of so called witches ceased in Connecticut, but of course, there was Salem. The good news is that the law evolved to improve the evidence required to convict anybody of anything. And so, right now, things aren't perfect, but they're much better than they were when it just took one witness to determine whether somebody could be convicted of being a witch.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. It's actually a pretty heavy subject, and I think we think of witches as almost fables. I happen to know a couple of witches, good people. It's a religion, as it turns out, the Wicca or Wiccan religion, and so that was a religious war that we have as a part of our history here. Good to know that the law has evolved as a consequence of those terrible experiences. We still have atrocities happening, certainly in our history, and the law hopefully evolving in the right direction, at least long term, as a result of those. But I think it's important to just remember those were real people, and that really happened. But thank you for bringing that to our attention there, Deborah. Who Wrote That Up for You is sponsored by Courtroom 5. At Courtroom 5, we believe the courts belong to the people, in particular to the people who use them. And we, the people, are coming to claim our courts. So if you are in court without a lawyer, or if you need to sue someone and can't find a lawyer to represent you, get yourself over to courtroom5.com. Try a limited version of our services for free, and we hope to provide some relief for you there. At this time, it is my great pleasure to welcome onto the show Stephanie Ebron. Cousin Stephanie, how are you? And thank you for joining Who Wrote That Up for You?
Well, good afternoon, Sonia Ebron. Is that what it is? Yes, yes, yes. Nice to meet you. And
Always,
hello, Miss Sloan. I'm a big fan of yours. I've been following you for quite a number of years.
always the cut up of the family. Stephanie, just wanted to thank you
You're
for
great.
joining us and being willing to share your story. If you would, share with our audience the background, the sort of background that got you into court.
Okay, so basically, I guess basically around the beginning of COVID, I signed a contract to have my mother's home renovated to become my home. And it was right at the beginning of COVID. I mean, basically everybody was still at home and we thought we were going to be out in a couple of weeks, kind of a thing. Prices hadn't skyrocketed, nothing. I signed the contract. She began work actually in August 'cause I had to sell my house first. She Began work in August, was supposed to be done in 6 weeks. Well, come November, which is a little bit more than 6 weeks, she was just about done. We were just about at the last payment. I asked her, I had to scrounge up more money. So I asked her 2 weeks before the last payment, what is my invoice total? She gave me the total. I was getting ready the day before the payment was supposed to be made. I'm talking with my contractor, and she says, "Let me get you that total." And I'm like, "No, you gave me that total 2 weeks ago, but if you want to give me the same number again, sure." And now, all of a sudden, in 2 weeks, the total went up by $20,000. And I said to her, "Excuse me, what happened?" And she said, and I said, "I have my email from weeks ago. There's $20,000 less. Where did you get this?" She's like, "Oh, well, it increased. It didn't increase in 2 weeks, and I didn't know about it. So it explained to me this." She's like, "Well, there were things happening, and I didn't want to bother you because I thought you were stressed out enough." I said, "Look, I'm stressed right now. I think you need to explain this. We have an issue now." Um, and then it was basically my, you know, my talking with a couple of experts um, around here, contractors that I had met. They were all like, "Don't pay her. Do not pay her even the part that you know you owe her at this point until she explains the other part." And and she was refusing to explain it. Um, the next day, when I told her I was not going to make the payment until she explained the other part, and plus I told her I don't have the other part. That was all there was to it. I don't know where she thought 20,000 was going to just magically appear. Anyway, and she says, "Well, if you don't give it to me," I don't even remember what she said, but anyway, she vacated the property that day, changed all the locks on my house, disconnected the water, disconnected the electricity, took the electrical box, just, it left all my appliances in the driveway. It was just a mess. So I had to hire people to come and basically finish all the stuff that she did and everything. In the meantime, maybe about a month later, I started getting messages from her attorney, telling me that I needed to pay this money. I explained to him that at this time I don't have a representative. I cannot talk to you. But this man persisted in calling me 2 or 3 times a day. He continued to tell me that this was off the books, and and he just wanted me to understand why I owed him this money, owed her this money. I explained to him, and my only comment to him was always, "I can't talk to you. I can't talk to you." And then I did eventually say to him one day, "If you took your car in for an oil change and your car comes back with 4 brand new tires, are you obligated to pay for the tires?" And he said, "No, I'm not going to pay for them." I said, "But they didn't throw your old tires away, so they have no old tires to put back on." He's like, "Well, no, in that case, you wouldn't do it, but you got to." I'm like, "Got to nothing," and I wouldn't talk to him. And
Who sued who in that situation? How
um,
did you end up in court
in
there?
that, okay, so basically, I think maybe about, yeah, less than 2 months later, I got served notice from her. And I was expecting it, so the sheriff was really nice about it. And the first thing that I did notice and about it was the fact that the attorney who had been calling me so much wasn't mentioned at all on any of the paperwork that she had filed, and she was an LLC. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure he's supposed to be on here somewhere. And just my little bit of knowledge, but I wasn't sure. And then every body who I was talking to kept telling me, "You can do this yourself," because everybody knows I'm not exactly a quiet, shy person. And they're like, "You don't need to hire anybody. You can do this yourself. You can do it yourself." Well, yeah, I can do it myself but I didn't know about how to reference what and all like that. And so that was where my uncertainty was coming. I happened to be speaking to a cousin of mine who said to me, "Have you not read any of the family emails?" And then I had to admit, no, I don't. Pretty much, I look to see if everybody's still alive, and then I keep going. And she introduced me to Courtroom Five.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad to hear that. Stephanie, had you considered getting a lawyer of your own?
I had considered it. In fact, I called a couple of lawyers who all just basically said this was too this the ones I knew were friends but not friends. They were people I knew who said you can do this yourself. They just were all like, you can do this yourself. You do not need an attorney. This was too cut and dry. She can't just throw up a magical number out of nowhere. Did you sign any invoices, any change of plans, anything like that? And I'm like, no, nothing. And I saved all my emails from her where she had written down what the price was. And then all of a sudden, and oh yeah, she had even sent me an email that said, okay, I know I didn't tell you about these extra charges, but you still have to pay them. And that was like the email of, okay, how did you possibly think she can wait? Didn't you know she can take this to court? So yes, I had tried to get an attorney, but I guess in a way, the numbers were so small for what they would have to do that everybody was like, you can do this on your own.
Got it.
So
Got it.
I used Courtroom Five.
Fantastic.
Oh, I was
Fantastic.
gonna say I used Courtroom Five.
How,
hmm
how did the case end? What was the outcome?
The outcome was she dropped all of her charges. I was actually looking forward to going. I had my outfit ready. I was I'm a little bit more the diva in the family, so I was more concerned about what I was going to wear. I had my outfit ready. I had my papers ready. I had my stuff from Courtroom Five. I had the all my paperwork. I had it up on the calendar, and I think court was maybe a week after my mom died. Yeah, so in fact, I felt like I was going in there in my mother's honor at that point, because it was only 1 week after my mom had died, and I'd even thought about asking them for a delay because of her death at that time. And then I was like, no, I'm ready for this. I want to go in there. And I ended up contacting the court to find, because I didn't know what time we were supposed to meet, and they were like, oh, she dropped those charges. I
Wow.
was
Wow.
like, what?
That's great. That is great. What was the experience like for you emotionally? I'm glad to hear the outcome there, but what emotions did you experience in that process?
You experienced everything from the beginning. It was just so much the belief of, I got this should be so easy. And and I felt bad for her, because I think I know what eventually happened for her during COVID. Prices went up. Unfortunately, my contract did not change. That was her fault. That was her problem. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
And then, like I say, you getting the harassment calls from this attorney who would call me from different numbers. So even though I block him from one number, he would go to another number. Because of the nature of my job, I answer my phone calls. And like I said, my mom dies in January, so I'm dealing with so it was about a year of dealing with her. And I don't think I was ever afraid that I would lose. I was more afraid that I would forget a date and she would win by some sort of default.
Right.
And so that was always a big help. But I think especially a lot of the paperwork, even though I never had representation, all of my stuff was done into the point. She named my mom even in the paperwork and everything, and I just was boom, boom, boom. Come on, come with it. I wanted it.
Way to go. I'm so glad. I'm so glad that that worked out in your favor there. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us. Always a favor to me. Great to see you. Where can people find you online?
Oh, that's a good question. I guess I'm on Facebook. And if you're looking for a mortgage, please give me a call. Rates are high, but people are still having need somewhere to live. I've got great mortgages, no money down. We can work this out. We can work it out. We got to get through this.
You're a mess. You're a mess, Stephanie Ebron. Thank you so much. We'll have you back again.
Thank
Thank you again.
you.
She is such a cut up. Love her. Love her to death. All right, fantastic. Deborah, who won yesterday's quiz, if anyone? And what do you have for us tomorrow? Go ahead.
Okay. Yesterday's quiz. You're in civil non in it. I'm sorry. You're in a civil non-evidentiary hearing, and the attorney for your opponent asks you a question about the facts of the case. What's the best approach to handling the situation? A, politely answer the question. B, ask the judge if it's okay to answer the question, and if it's okay, answer. C, ask the attorney to direct his questions to the judge. Or D, ask the judge to instruct the attorney not to treat you like a witness. The winner is Jennifer. It is D, ask the judge to instruct the attorney not to treat you like a witness. Pro se litigants get caught up in this all the time. The winner is Jennifer M.
Congratulations to Jennifer there.
And then tomorrow's question, today's quiz, true or false? A good complaint describes a set of events that caused a harm or injury. Is that a true or false statement? A good complaint describes a set of events that caused a harm or injury. If you want to participate in today's quiz, send your responses to quiz@courtroom5.com.
Looking forward to seeing the answers there. And again, I love these true and false questions. You have a 50% chance of winning. So get your answers in there. Fantastic. Well, at this time, I'd like to welcome to the show attorney Paul Campson. Paul, thank you so much for joining. Who wrote that up for you? We're happy
Thank
to
you.
hear you. I know that you practice personal injury law in the New York City metro area. Would you share with our audience your background and what led you to that career?
So I attended law school at the City University of New York School of Law. The motto is law in the service of human needs, and giving access to the court would not have that type of access. You see it a lot in the where people are railroaded into making confessions and things of that nature. But also in the civil area where I practice, people who are and so forth, often they don't know what to do. These gigantic insurance companies during tennis events and football arenas and things of that nature. They try to contact people before they get a lawyer and take advantage. It's just not right. And, it's all about profits, insurance companies. And, that's not the way. And we're trying our best to make sure it doesn't work that way.
Understood. Personal injury is a fairly broad category. Are there some specific types of cases that you prefer or that you serve most often?
Sure. Well, a lot of work in the litigation with Juul and the e-cigarette. You would think these gigantic companies would have learned a lesson from all the tobacco litigation. But we see cigarettes and Juul, the different flavors, they're really targeting, in New York, that means people under the age of 18, and it's addictive. The statistics on the health ramifications of Juul, and it's amazing that these companies are getting away with it. Effort to stop them because they really are preying on our children.
So class actions, I understand, of that nature are your sort of expertise.
Sure, and a lot of states attorney generals, I think 30 set up funds to help children, and even when you're a teen and the addiction continues into your 20s and beyond. It's ongoing, and it's you see a lot of it with the opioid. We've had devastation, but Jewel is heading in the same way. It's a scandal.
Fantastic. And so for people who are affected by those electronic cigarettes and who are harmed by them, how do they make their way into a personal injury firm like yours, and how are they served?
Sure. So, they should really see particular area of law is a legal minefield. If your company is with virtually unlimited resources. So if you don't hire an attorney who's work, that's another problem. You need, and I'm not just saying attorneys out there doing this type of work, but you need to consult with somebody who knows what they're doing to fight these insurance companies. And you could just, you can Google me, Campson Law at Gmail, CampsonLaw.com, or you could just Google Jewel attorneys, Jewel Justice for these type of cases, and it's great help.
Are there people who decide to represent themselves on these types of claims, and what's their experience as you've seen it?
Yeah, there are people who do that, and the if you will, is a person who represents himself as a fool for a client. It when it go to a doctor's office, disregard the doctor's advice and say, well, I'm going to just go home. And it's really the same type of thing. You think maybe in the short term you might be saving money. All the avenues of recovery that's available to you, and your family is related to you. And insurance companies are more than happy to pay out and.
Understood. Are there some suggestions that you would make for people who choose that route, right? For whatever reasons, how do they prepare for trial, and how do they manage those procedures?
A lot of the where you bring a lawsuit and plead a case, there are things you'll just be dismissed by the court because you didn't follow the proper procedure. Out of these cases now in federal court because it's multi-state, so it may not just be New York, and the rules in federal court are even more draconian. So if you find or something, you're out with prejudice, meaning you can never bring the case again.
Got it. And so if you do get a proper complaint, you plead the elements of whatever the claim might be there, and you get past it. Obviously you've got to get through discovery, and if you make it to trial, if you're lucky enough or miraculous enough to make it to trial, are there some suggestions for managing these sorts of cases at trial?
Sure. So it's all about documentation. Jewel is such a dangerous product. It's almost dangerous because everyone knows it's dangerous, and it's been adjudicated that it's dangerous. Making sure your documentation's in order, you have the proper reports from medical experts and things filed properly and on time and in the right venue, and then you case.
Got it. Sounds like a lot of work there.
Yes.
Have you known any pro se litigants to succeed on these types of cases?
Seen a couple that have been dismissed. There have been a couple of people who I got $5,000 in a settlement. you might have been entitled. Obviously every case is different and so forth, but pay $5,000 to every child that they injured, they'd be happy to do it.
Right, right. Understood, understood. Paul, I'm going to share your website here on the screen for our viewers, campsonlaw.com. And you primarily operate out of New York City. Do you take cases out of that region, though?
Sure. So we have a lot of cases for sure, but we're all through New York State, Long Island, upstate, absolute Midtown. But like, for instance, this morning I was in the Bronx. I'm in the Bronx nearly every day. The courthouse in Yankee Stadium. It's obviously very well known. Sure.
Excellent, excellent. Where else can people find you online?
Sure. So it's Twitter at Campson Law. It's Campson Law.
Fantastic, fantastic. Attorney Paul Campson, thank you so much for joining us on Who Wrote That Up For You and sharing your experience and your advice on managing these types of cases. Wish you continued success, and we will have you back again. Thank you, sir.
I appreciate it. My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
My.
That's great. That's great.
Absolutely. We've got folks handling small claims and experienced litigators handling class actions. And the legal system runs the gamut for sure. So really happy to be able to profile both those stories today.
Yes.
Well, that's all we have for you today. As always, thank you for tuning in, and we will see you tomorrow.
Are you feeling beleaguered, angry, or afraid, as if things are spinning out of control and you're powerless to stop them? It's easy to just let things slide and hope they don't get worse. But they often do get worse. The thing is, you're not powerless. Our courts belong to us, and their purpose is to give power to the powerless. Don't let your grievances pile up without redressing them. You can handle this in court. Or, if someone takes you to court, you can take them to school.